do it just on your phone. But in previous ages, people had the ability to do that naturally, and some people still have these remote viewing capabilities. Once I was speaking at a conference in Montreal, an alternative science conference, and one of the other speakers there was Stephen Schwartz. It's one reason I like going to conferences. Not only do I get an opportunity to speak and put my ideas out and have people come up to me and ask me questions, I get to meet other researchers, other people, and hear what they have to say. So Stephen Schwartz was one of the researchers who was part of the remote viewing program that the United States military and intelligence agencies were operating in the 1970s and 1980s. In other words, they found, and this has been documented, they've admitted this. They may still be doing it today in secret, but the documents have come out showing that in the 1970s and 1980s, the United States government, military intelligence agencies were using remote viewing to see what was going on in the former Soviet Union. There were a lot of things they couldn't see with their satellites. And for example, on one occasion, they noticed that in a Russian port city, there was this huge building being constructed a few kilometers from the shore. And of course, from a satellite, you can't see. They could see the building was being constructed, but they couldn't see what was being built inside the building. So they had remote viewers look and see what was going on inside the building. And they said they're building a huge missile-carrying submarine in there, the biggest missile-carrying submarine that's ever been built. And the government officials said, well, that can't be true because this building is several miles from the coast. How are they going to get this huge big submarine from the building to the coast, to the port? And the remote viewers looked and they saw some plans and they said, well, in a year when they've built the submarine, they're going to build a canal from this building to the shore, and they're going to launch the submarine that way. And later, satellite pictures showed that was true. After a year, the canal was built, and the submarine came out. They saw it. So the point is that some people still are able to manifest a lot of these powers that we're trying to duplicate with our technology. And of course, the technology is tied into material production and consumption, which means you have to pay for it. And, there's, profit considerations, and there's competition among the different companies that are offering these things, and the governments want to control what's going on with the web and the internet and this and that. So you're getting the technology, but you're also getting all the people who want to exploit the technology, for their selfish purposes, which means you get the viruses, you get the scams, you get the spam, you get, there's a price to pay for it. So, anyways,
it's interesting to note though also that this kind of parapsychology aspect or in terms of remote viewing, that in this day and age, it's being used by institutions who kind of is the cusp of materialism, if you will. The military are going into these fields in order to explore, at the end of the day, for materialistic purposes, if you will, for this competitive based thing. But it's still a very, very interesting point, obviously. Absolutely.
So that's so whether we're talking about the paranormal technologies or the material technologies, they can be used for either good or evil, you could say.
Sure.
It depends on the consciousness of the people involved. Like you said, the internet, the web can can provide a way for breaking down a lot of these barriers, but they can also, those same technologies can also be used to, they can be exploited in such a way as to increase these things. It's and there are lots of debates about who's going to control the web and access to it, and different nations are now starting to control it, block sites and this and that. But ultimately, and then there are other kinds of people trying to use it for their own purposes. So what's really important is not the technology itself, you could say, but the consciousness of the people that are using it, which is why I always go back to the consciousness aspect of things. And the focus on technology is something that is a result of certain decisions that were made 4 or 5 centuries ago in Europe. Because if you go back to Western Europe 4 or 5 centuries ago, they had a picture of reality that was very much like the picture of reality that I'm talking about. A picture of reality that involved vital forces, consciousness, the idea that there's intelligent beings all over the cosmos, that we live in a multi-level cosmos that's inhabited by different sorts of beings adapted to the features of existence on these different levels, that they're more subtle realms of intelligent life and things of that sort. These were very common ideas, even in the West, even in Western Europe 4 or 5 centuries ago. But around that time, certain groups of scientists got together and decided, well, we just have to focus on matter that we can control in our experiments and get predictable, reproducible results. We can't be dealing with all this alchemical stuff and spiritual stuff that requires a whole different mindset. They wanted to just focus on matter. And it was very productive in the sense that they learned how to control matter in some very interesting ways, and that's the source of all our technologies. But by leaving out these other aspects of reality, by marginalizing these other aspects of reality, they did get a huge benefit in terms of technology, but we can see that there's a downside to that. Because with the technologies have also come the wars, the economic crises, the environmental destruction, the intense levels of conflict that we see in the world today, and the increasing levels of unhappiness that we see in people all over the world. They're very disappointed with the lives that they've been given, in the sense that yes, they work, very hard, but then they find their pensions disappear, their jobs disappear. It becomes a very frustrating situation that, we've got all this great technology, but because we've left out, we've marginalized these other aspects of reality, there's a cost, that. So I think it's a question of balance. Say like, if you're eating too much of the wrong kinds of food, it's going to be bad for your health. You're not going to feel as full of energy as you should. You're going to suffer for different reasons. But the solution isn't to stop eating. The solution is to eat